Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I am Tony DeQuano.
Today's movie, one of the best zombie movies that there is. Not only one of the best, but one of the funniest. Actually, probably the funniest zombie movie. Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, one of the funniest. Easily.
Yeah. Shaun of the Dead is just so good.
It's so good, and it's that perfect combination of spoofing it and being one itself.
Yes.
And not disrespecting the genre.
Yes. Not only
the proper homage.
Not only is it a spoof of zombie movies, an homage to zombie movies, whatever you want to call it, it's just a good zombie movie.
It's a very good zombie movie. It does it so well. And even though it's funny as hell, the characters are terrific. And there's moments of real emotion to it. And parts of it are also kind of scary.
Yeah.
Like any good zombie movie.
Yes. And it takes all of the cliched zombie movie tropes and it makes them work in what it does. They don't feel overdone, overused, or anything like that in there, even though they're used in just about every zombie movie. But it makes them, it blends them into the story like they're meant to be there.
Totally agree.
So, Shaun of the Dead, of course, is directed by Edgar Wright and starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. And this was this the first movie that the three of them got together on? I know they got their start together in Spaced in the show that only lasted, was it one season or two?
It was one season, if I recall correctly. I'm sure there's some British listener that would be happy to correct us on that.
Yes, I'm sure there's. I think it's only one season. I've seen it. I've watched the whole thing. It's a great show. But it's been several years since I watched it, so I can't remember if it was one season that I watched or two. But I think it was just one. But yes, if there is a British listener out there that is a fan of that show, please, if we are wrong, correct us and let us know how many seasons there were.
When I first saw Shaun of the Dead, I had no idea about Spaced. And I think that's like for probably a lot of American audiences, unless you were really cued into British cult TV. Like I knew people are always into Doctor Who, even before the new reincarnation of it.
Yeah.
The original 60s and 70s that were really into, like, I found out eventually they were really into Spaced as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely similar fan bases. Fans of one are usually fans of the other two. But yeah, Spaced was a great show, and I'd like to watch it again, but it's been taken off of all the streaming services that I've subscribed to.
Yeah.
And can't find it anywhere. If anybody knows where I can find Spaced, then please let us know.
Let us know, please.
But yeah, so back to Shaun of the Dead. So Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, and Nick Frost got together again to make a movie that they called Shaun of the Dead. So basically premise is, like any zombie movie, one day there's a mysterious virus that infects humanity and, the dead start coming back to life and eating people.
And the thing about zombies, that was kind of towards the beginning of them kind of the new craze of zombies, at least within more mainstream culture, popular culture. Because Romero, right, he was always there, but it was still very cult.
Which, funny that you mentioned Romero. I mean, how could we talk about any zombie movie without mentioning Romero? But, funny little tidbit, in Romero's Land of the Dead,
right?
In one scene, when they're in the safe city, right, and they're going through that big market area, there's that booth that get your picture taken with a zombie. The two zombies that are in that booth are played by Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg.
It's a good tidbit.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the time it came out, it was, kind of, 28 Days Later was out there. And, the Resident Evil franchise had kind of started, right? That was obviously based off a video game that was capitalizing off the zombie craze. But there wasn't a whole lot out there that was kind of, a big mainstream success. And even Shaun of the Dead wasn't at that point. It had its following. Like, I was looking it up, and I didn't realize like it was probably about 6 months between the UK release and the US release of Shaun of the Dead, and the US release of it kind of passed me by. I didn't hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch it for the first time until you, me, and Steve watched it together at the apartment in Leesburg.
Right, that was my that was my first time as well. I had heard about it by that point. I had seen people saying, "Oh yeah, it's hilarious and it's a really good zombie movie." But at that point, I knew, I'd seen 28 Days Later. I watched that in college, and we'd seen the remake of Dawn of the Dead. And had we seen the Few Bulls House of the Dead at that point?
I don't think we had watched that yet. I think House of the Dead was a little bit later in our time in that apartment.
Because that was released like a year before.
Yeah. Oh, that's a whole different story. That's a whole different movie for a different podcast, maybe a different kind of podcast.
I don't think I've seen that in about 16 years.
Yeah, me neither. I think, that was the last time I watched it.
I think we've only seen that movie one time.
No, I think we watched it a couple of times, actually. Maybe. At least I may have watched it twice.
Enough booze. Yeah. 3 o'clock on a Friday night.
Yep. Oh, did we do that for a growler night?
I think we probably did.
Yeah, I think we did. For those that since we've never actually mentioned a growler night on this podcast before, what we used to do, we used to have a brewery that was down the street from our apartment, and we used to go down there and each get a growler of beer and take it back to the apartment, put in a movie, and try to finish the growler before the end of the movie. And it was always better when it was just a bad movie we were watching that you kind of needed a little boost to get through.
Yes. A lot of times they end up being like really cheesy horror movies.
Yeah. Those are always the best growler night movies. Really cheesy horror
Santa's
movies.
Sleigh.
Just a good horror movie is good for growler night also.
It is.
I mean,
that's good for like the beginning of it. You get the good movie out of the way.
Yeah. I mean, on occasion we would watch 2 movies with it. But yeah, I mean, the first movie we ever did a growler night with was The Descent, which is a legitimately good movie.
Terrific movie. Yeah, it's probably been about 15 years since I've seen it.
Yeah, and it was the international cut, so it was it wasn't the American version that ends too soon.
But yeah, I mean, it's always a good way to enjoy a movie. Anyway, House of the Dead. That's
all right. So
that, anyway, back to Shaun of the Dead.
Back to Shaun of the Dead.
And it's one of the things I like about it. Even it's kind of funny. I don't think I watch a whole lot with it. I think the height of the zombie craze has kind of ended. I think Romero obviously did a good job with it. There's always a good angle you can take on the movies in terms of where your commentary is. Shaun of the Dead, its big theme on it is in terms of laziness, or like, what are you doing with your life, right?
Yep.
Are you just sleepwalking through life and ignoring everything else? And that's the big thing. And they kind of established that really early on. And it's done really well.
I mean, Pete is always ragging on Shaun about how lazy he is and how he keeps leaving the front door open and he keeps on inviting Ed over.
Does Ed actually, where does Ed live?
I don't know.
Establish where he actually lives?
I mean, eventually he lives in the shed.
At the end of the movie, he lives in the shed.
Yeah.
Maybe he lives in the shed before at the beginning of the movie, too.
Maybe. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of room for him in the shed when they had when they went in there to get the cricket bat and the shovel out. And it was also locked. So if it was locked, then Ed would have had the key. So
yeah. I was just saying, Ed's not one that I think, even before, I'm not going to spoil things, but he's not one that would strike me as one would mind living in a shed.
Yeah.
As long as he can play video games, maybe smoke a joint and drink a beer, he's okay.
Yep.
We don't find out what his job is. We know what Shaun's job is.
Yeah, Shaun just worked at a store.
Yeah. And most people you see in the movie actually just work at a store. And I think that's one of the things I kind of like about it when we watch the beginning of the movie, when they're kind of going through the opening credits, it just show a bunch of people just mindlessly doing their jobs.
Yep.
Right? It's like, oh, yeah, you're just acting like a zombie. Right?
Yep.
And then they show up later, literally zombies.
And then all the zombies are given jobs at the end. So,
yeah.
Doing the same thing they were doing before. But
there's a lot of commentary to be had there. We don't need to go that deep into it. There's a lot under the surface happening here.
Yes, there is.
Especially, I think, I know we'll do another episode on Hot Buzz, which is a movie I love.
Yes.
There's a lot more going on under the surface there, I think, than some of the other movies.
Oh, and by the way, we've already talked about some of this, but spoiler alert to anybody who's thinking that we're not going to talk about this entire movie. We will be talking about every bit of this movie, of Shaun of the Dead. So you have been warned. Don't know if we have to keep on doing that every episode, but...
A nice little bit, I think. I don't know.
Yeah,
we don't
want to...
I'm actually kind of disappointed about, every episode, we're usually drinking something. And so I think that one of the first times that the glass I'm drinking out of is not something pretty closely related to the movie we're talking about. I don't have a zombie beer glass. So I'm actually drinking out of a Jurassic Park beer glass.
Well, close enough. Dinosaurs were dead and then they were brought back. Jurassic Park's full of zombies. Zombie dinosaurs.
Which, again, not to get too far off the subject. Did you ever see that movie, Wright of the Living Dead? That would have been a completely perfect Horror Night movie.
Are you talking an actual movie called Wright of the Living Dead or the one that we came up with years ago?
No, that's right.
Because there's a movie we created years and years ago that we called Wreck of the Living Dead. Not going to get into it right now. We never actually made it. We just came up with the idea for it.
Completely blending things right now. We're giving people ideas, so we're going to have to sue them later.
Yes. Nobody used that title for a movie. That's our idea.
But anyway, back to Shaun. Which, if you don't know, I know we mentioned his name, is Simon Pegg, and he's just, it's funny. I think he's so perfect in the role, and it's funny in some ways. You almost wonder. And I think part of it's on purpose. He's got a lot of range as a comedic actor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he probably is pretty big, and I know he's big and kind of. It's funny the way I'm using this because with how mainstream a lot of comics and Star Wars and other things have become, but really within kind of geekier, nerdier circles, he's big, obviously.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of huge franchises over the years too.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's even been in thinking about mainstream, he's been in the later Mission Impossible movies.
Yes, he has,
and which I actually think are so much better than the early ones.
Yeah,
he's been a key part in those, and he's he's a side character.
Yeah, although my favorite Mission Impossible is still 3. Mission Impossible 3 is my favorite. You haven't seen that one?
I have not.
You need to watch it.
I've seen the first 2, and I didn't see 3 or 4, and I think I picked up again on Ghost Protocol.
3 was awesome. 4 was Ghost Protocol.
Was that for Ghost Protocol? And I missed 3. Okay.
3 was great. And 3 is my favorite of all of them. I mean, I like all of them, all the Mission Impossible movies, especially the later ones are better than the first couple, but I think 3 is still my top Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah, it was 2006. So after kind of having all the
Philip Seymour Hoffman as the villain, which we talked about him at length back in the Big Lebowski episode.
We did.
And how great of an actor he was.
I forgot he was Scotty in Star Trek in the new series.
Mm-hmm. He was Unkar Plutt.
He had a guest role
Force Awakens.
Doctor Who.
He did. He did.
He was really good in that one.
Back to Simon Pegg, by the way. No longer talking about Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Doctor Who. But yeah, Simon Pegg was in Doctor Who. It was after Shaun of the Dead, his guest appearance. His mom was also in Doctor Who.
Simon Pegg's mom?
From Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, sorry, okay, yes. Okay.
Yes, sorry, I should be more specific about that.
Yes, Shaun's mom.
Shaun's mom.
Yes.
But like Sean's just, it's funny. Like, he's he represents a lot of people, I think. You think about the movie.
And Nick Frost was in Doctor Who also.
A lot of people a lot like him, where he's kind of an ordinary guy that's probably underachieving to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a good person overall. But yeah, he's just underachieving. Maybe stuck a little bit too much in the past, not moving enough forward. And he plays it. I think Simon Pegg plays Shaun so well.
Yes, he does.
And you can tell within Shaun that he wants out of what he's doing. But when we talk about the layers again, and it's like he doesn't want to be that corporate zombie either. He doesn't want to be this completely lazy bum that does nothing and just mooches off everybody. But he doesn't want to be that corporate slave either, where you're also kind of being that zombie. And there's that balance that he has to try to find within himself. And that's that's kind of the journey that his character takes in the movie. And he has to kind of confront a lot of his past to be able to move forward, whether it be his relationship with his best friend, his relationship with his girlfriend,
his relationship with his roommate,
his relationship with his roommate, his mom, his stepdad. It's all this that he has to overcome. And the movie takes you through all of that.
The guy that hates him because he's dating the girl that he's in love with.
Right. Yeah. But he's another character. It's a perfect example, again, of how kind of, like maybe he's not being a kind of zombie, how some people might use the term zombie as like a metaphor, right?
But they don't use the Z word.
They do not.
We don't use the Z word.
We don't use the Z word. But yeah, David, right? He's another person that's just still kind of stuck somewhere, right? Like,
yeah,
he's been stuck on Liz.
Yeah, and
that's university.
In this watch through, I was actually paying real close attention to David in all of his scenes, especially when Liz was involved.
Okay.
So before they even say anything about him being in love with Liz, you can tell by just watching David. He never takes his eyes off her. He's always the first to get on Shaun's case about screwing things up with Liz, seemingly to try to convince her to give him the boot. He hardly ever even says anything to his actual girlfriend.
Right, yeah.
He hardly interacts with her. But yeah, if you just watch David, you could see all the signs that he's hung up on her and he's jealous of Shaun. Yeah,
and I think it's a great point because it's, we look at really the idea of the zombie as just being this singularly focused being that has certain cues in on things on what it's focused on. It's, again, he's a great example of that. Like, he's got Diane right there as a girlfriend, but she's only there to exist for him because of being friends with Liz. And thinking about again, it covers every interaction he has with Shaun.
And he's actually, like, throughout the movie, he's the main person that's coming down on Shaun. The main person that's trying to tell him that he's doing everything wrong and that he's screwing everything up. Everybody else, I mean, they for the most part keep their mouth shut about all that. I mean, sometimes they'll chime in. Sometimes Liz will chime in, and they'll have a little lover's spat. But Shaun's main antagonist in the movie is probably David rather than the zombies.
Zombies, the Zeds.
Yeah, the Z words.
It's probably David himself, right? It makes you wonder. Like, it's probably like they were, obviously there was a zombie in their flat.
Yeah,
when it started, they didn't know it at the time.
Yeah, because they left the door open.
Not to mention Pete.
Yeah, and there's Pete.
He hadn't turned yet.
No,
but they would have kept the doors locked. They could probably, once Pete would have turned. But stayed in the flat.
Pete, by the way, played by the amazing Peter Serafinowicz.
Yes.
Amazing actor. Not in Doctor Who that I can think of. A lot of people in this movie were in Doctor Who, but Peter Serafinowicz, I don't
all British,
think he was ever in Doctor Who. But he was the voice of Darth Maul in Phantom Menace.
He was the voice of Darth Maul.
Yep. Yes, he was the one who they dubbed over Ray Park's voice with in Phantom Menace.
in which Ray Park was terrific.
And he was also quite possibly my absolute favorite Peter Serafinowicz role was as the sommelier in John Wick 2.
Yes, which I didn't even thought about that. We'll need to do a John Wick.
Yes, we will have to someday. One of these episodes.
Anyway, but it's one of those ones you kind of wonder, like, obviously as the zombie craze became bigger, how do you survive the zombie apocalypse, right? And Shaun of the Dead is not interested in that, right? Again, it's interested in, like, how are you living your life? Are you just being mindless about things, right? And in a way, they could have probably stayed in the flat, and then Pete turned. They probably could have done something about it, and then stayed there, and then fine until the military showed up, killing all the zombies, right?
Yeah. If they just stayed inside, locked the door.
And again, to get into here's the spoiler: like, a lot of zombie movies have very ambiguous endings. Shaun of the Dead does not.
No, it does not. It has about as happy of an ending as a zombie movie can have.
And they probably could have wrote it out in their flat.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the movie, the flat was still in one piece. It hadn't been, raided by looters or zombies.
And probably Liz and them probably could have wrote it out. But I think Shaun realizes that he needs to fight for this girl. Otherwise, he's not really living, right? He realizes he has something to actually fight for, contend for. So he must leave that, right? He must leave the flat. That's obviously sets up, once, obviously showing the hints of everything during his work day. People acting weird and strange.
Yeah, and I love the constant callbacks to, you got red on you. There's the red pen that just broke in his pocket. And then throughout the movie, it gets redder and redder because there's blood getting splattering on him.
It's always just delivered so well in a deadpan manner. Yep. Like, you've got red on you.
You got red on you.
And so many characters do it. And even, his stepdad, who was Bill Nighy plays him, right?
Yes, Bill Nighy.
He was
amazing actor.
Terrific actor.
Another one from Doctor Who.
And I don't think, I think, at that point, I'd seen him in, probably one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and then another really British movie, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Another, very, very British humor.
Yes.
Shaun of the Dead has some of that British humor, but it's not as deep as Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yes. Shaun of the Dead, definitely a British movie, definitely has British humor to it, but it also has some American humor.
Yeah.
So it's a
little broader.
It's a little bit of a blend between American and British.
There's a deadpanness to Bill Nighy, whenever, when he sees Shaun at the electronics room. And even, but like his character stuff, like, it's, again, that was what's so singularly focused on something that it almost gets blinded. Like, as we learn, like, he's Shaun's stepdad, and he's worried about trying to be the right father.
Yeah.
Proper father figure, right?
Yeah, because he came in so late in Shaun's life. He's not his biological father. He came in, when Shaun was a kid, when he was growing up a little bit. And
this friction, and drives a certain part of that early part of the action. But as we learn later, you actually genuinely care for him, not just being this hard ass. But he doesn't know how to do it completely, right? Which, to me, would make it seem like he doesn't have natural children of his own. Marries this woman who has this boy. Yeah, he's doing the best that he can. And, they play it well off of each other, too, because it's funny. It's like this cold relationship, but they're both such good actors that it's so believable. It's like this disconnect, but it's a natural disconnect that they play off of each other in the movie, as if they're really this kind of like this stepdad and stepson that don't like each other a whole lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and Shaun is bent on killing him because he's been bit. And he knows that, and Shaun knows that he's going to turn into a zombie.
I love, that scene where he's talking to his mom on the phone, right?
Yep.
And she's like, I think Philip's been bit.
Yep.
He turns it like
They were rather.
We may have to kill Philip.
There were some people. He was attacked. The people were rather bitey.
Shaun's just like, he knows that, like, we may have to kill Philip.
They had to kill Phil.
Okay.
And funny, when they're on the phone with Shaun's mom, with Barbara, and Ed yells, "We're coming to get you, Barbara." That, of course, is a callback to Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
At the beginning of that movie, when the zombies are first coming up, and the woman Barbara, and it's her brother, right, who are in the cemetery together.
Yep.
They see them coming walking toward them, and the brother says, "They're coming to get you, Barbara." So I thought that was a brilliant callback to the first modern zombie movie, the first of the Romero zombie movies.
Yeah, but that's like, it's those callbacks in that respect to, again, the one that really was like the beginning of all of it. Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Romero, obviously, his Dead trilogy.
Which
also,
then it's actually
like the Crazies,
went on to
which is kind of
the Dead
one.
trilogy actually went on to basically be the Dead franchise, because there's more.
Yes, yeah, he ended up doing more because of kind of the restarting of a zombie craze.
Yeah, I mean, there's
like 28 days later. I mean, you had the video games, like Resident Evil video games, right?
Yeah, but those are also a different kind of zombie. Those were rage zombies.
Yeah.
The Resident Evil is a rage
20
virus.
Days later, 28 days later, it was all rage.
Exactly. It's a rage virus, not necessarily a zombie virus. But yeah, I mean,
that was really the movie that, obviously, like I said, they had the Resident Evil, like, video games, but then, like, 20 days later, really, that definitely, again, another British movie, but that definitely had success in the States.
Yes, it did.
And, it was kind of the Kickstarter. Except then you're not going to have the Dawn of the Dead remake without that. Which, yeah. And again, we stated earlier, but Shaun of the Dead and Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, and Edgar Wright all have that respect for what Romero did. The other person thinking about it that was also is a very minor role is Martin Freeman, who was also done a lot of British movies.
Yes. And he played Bilbo Baggins in The Hobbit.
Yes, The Hobbit, which is a very British story.
Yeah.
And he was also played Dr. Watson too.
Yes, later. He did in Sherlock.
Yeah, which he was very good at.
And he was in a few MCU movies.
He was. Yep. Really minor role in Shaun of the Dead, but anyway, he's another person that people would recognize that has a role.
Yes, he was
very small role.
He was one of Yvonne's friends.
Yeah, he's in one.
When Shaun runs into his old friend Yvonne, played by the woman who played his roommate. Stevenson. Yes, Jessica Stevenson, who played his roommate in Spaced.
Yeah, all those little callbacks to it. Like I always love kind of like content creators like that, and they done different things together, and then they just kind of do really nice references to that, like because even before like the main action movie begins, Shaun runs into Yvonne. Right?
Yeah,
like it's been such a long time.
Yeah, and then they run into each other again at the end.
This time with a bunch of military men killing a bunch of zombies.
And funny thing, when they're all walking past each other after they run into each other, each group has the same like type of member in it.
Yep.
As they're walking by, they're all kind of waving at each other. The Ed equivalent in Yvonne's group is played by Matt Lucas, who was also in Doctor Who.
Yep.
And on top of that, he was in an episode of Community where he played a fan of Inspector Spacetime, their version of Doctor
Who. And currently, if anyone likes baking, he is one of the hosts of the Great British Bake Off.
Yes, he is.
I feel like with British actors, you name one of them and you can learn everything.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like Canadian actors and Canadian produced TV shows.
Yes. Feel like, like at some point, you had these stage people like that. Anyway, most of your TV or movie people seem to be in everything. Like,
Yeah,
every British actor was in the Harry Potter series.
pretty much.
We're getting
Either
to the point where
the Harry Potter series or Doctor Who.
we're getting to the point where almost every American actor has been in the MCU.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true. That is very true.
Anyway,
And it's like every
Shaun.
Canadian actor has been in every CW show.
Or the X-Files.
That too.
They filmed in Vancouver.
Yes, they did.
He was not Canadian, but was in the X-Files. It was Terry O'Quinn. But
Who then
he's
also,
not-
of
he's
course,
not been
played
in Doctor
John
Who.
Locke in Lost, the badass with a heart of gold.
That's right. Also in The Stepfather.
Yes, also in The Stepfather. The original
Anyhow.
Stepfather, not the remake.
Anyway, back to Shaun. So yeah, you had the action where like, yeah, like his entire purpose is to like, okay, win back Liz, right? And that really is it. Like, he goes to like, this is what we're gonna do: save Mom, get Liz, and go to Winchester.
Yep. Though there's an extended, there's their extended discussion at the beginning of the movie when they're at the Winchester. Ed goes through step by step what the movie's going to be.
That's right.
Which is crazy. But
It's those little things like that that just make it.
yeah,
And you don't think about it at first, and you watch it again, like, oh yeah, okay.
yep.
It's even
They'll start out. They'll have Bloody Marys, and the zombie that they encounter in the garden is named Mary,
and they bloody her.
and they bloody her.
There's something about it too, though. Like you think about back to that garden and stuff. Like they got enough time to like let's search through the record collection.
Yes,
It's like which ones are worth
Yes.
keeping. Which, like, yeah, I mean, I think it's a perfectly legitimate thing to think about. Like,
I love it. They're going through it, and Ed pulls one out, and he just gives Shaun a look, and Shaun's like, "What? I liked it." Batman soundtrack. Throw it.
which is funny because I know, we're talking about that recently. How we need to, at some point do the like '89 Batman, and like there's listeners like it's Prince, but like Prince is a great artist, but he's
Yeah.
also really dated,
Yes.
like talented but dated. But like even at that point, like it's almost legitimate to think about because again, we're not thinking they're in a zombie apocalypse. There's just these two.
Yeah.
There's this really strange chick in their backyard.
Yeah. They don't find out that she's undead until they knock her over and she falls onto the pipe and then climbs off of it. She's got a big old hole in her stomach.
They just think she is super drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, it's a perfectly legitimate kind of thought,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, they walked right past the zombie outside the Winchester the night before that was eating the guy. They just thought there was people making out.
They were drunk. They thought it was making out. Like, which I guess it's, another thing when you think about it, it's like, it's just there's certain circumstances that you just don't think much of.
Yeah. And then they sang with the other one that they thought was just drunk.
Anyway, yeah, it's it's just those mundane situations, or not, seemingly mundane situations.
Yeah.
That you might chuckle at, and they play it well. I mean, like even the danger at first, like they lock them out of the house, they keep them in the garden, and eventually they break through the window and they have to leave. But there's certainly even like within that is a bumbling aspect about it. Like not thinking everything through. Like, oh yeah, it's not like hit the lock on the key fob.
Yeah.
It's gonna make some noise, right? But even just like the minor aspects again we talked about earlier, just like, oh yeah, it's been bit on the hand. Like that's a weird thing that has one of those bites on.
Yeah.
He's not Mike Tyson.
And even that would be the ear.
Or
Mike Tyson, if you're listening to this, we can all laugh about it, can't we?
Yes, I think Mike Tyson has a good sense of humor about
Yes,
himself,
he does.
I think. The Hangover proved that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think just some of the movies kind of played a little bit of the chaos of it. I guess I'm thinking back even more like Dawn of the Dead. 28 Days Later is different because your main character wakes up naked in the bed with everything already happened. So he
kind of like how Walking Dead starts.
Yeah, and it just unfolds from there, But that's I think that's sort of like, again, what I think about Shaun. Just he's focused on what he needs to do. Realizes he needs to do something. He goes to bed that night, right? He's told like, get your life together, right? And he writes it down. Proceeds to do everything he wants to do on that whiteboard the next day. That's what
Yeah.
And that's his goal of the day.
Yeah.
There just happens to be a bunch of zombies. And then they finally, they go get to his mom's house. Ed has a thing for his mom, which is really strange, and makes you kind of wonder about their friendship and childhood. And
yep. Hey, you don't know. I mean, hey, growing up, when they were kids, Shaun's mom might have been hot.
Yeah. So like Penelope Wilton, one of the big things she was on was a sitcom in the 80s called Ever Decreasing Circles, in the mid 80s, right? So I don't know much about it. I just know what she was on that. And in terms of anything else it was about. But, I don't know if it was like their answer to Family Ties.
Could be. Could be. Again, if anybody knows about that show, let us know. Let us know what you know about it.
I think like most Americans, in terms of British TV series, we know Doctor Who, Fawlty Towers, and we know Monty Python.
And Mr. Bean.
Mr. Bean, yeah. But yeah, and
Benny Hill.
He starts taking charge from there. He starts even standing up for himself in his mom's house. Philip's there, and he's obviously out with her. And he proceeds forward. Like he takes charge. He doesn't take no for an answer, and they leave.
Yeah.
Like, even with Philip.
Yeah, I mean his goal at that point is to protect his family and friends.
He gets
and kill Phil.
Kill Phil. That's right. He gets Liz and Diane and David. They're flat. And, like, again, they're probably actually pretty safe in their high rise there, but they leave. Gets them to leave, and I like how they all have their weapons of choice. Like a cricket bat makes sense.
Yes.
Even like a field hockey stick.
Yeah,
makes sense.
And a shovel makes sense.
An umbrella.
Yeah, an umbrella doesn't really make much sense.
And I get, those, not the rage, super fast zombies of 28 days later, right? They're the slower, very methodical, clumsy.
They're the Romero zombies.
Yeah. Something that's just blunt, as long as it keeps your distance from them. But it still keeps within, it shows
it was an umbrella with the pointy end, though, also, so they could use it as a stabbing weapon.
Yes. It's a good point. But even then, it shows they're trying to escape. Like, they could still get easily surrounded if they don't have a good escape plan.
Yeah. Which is what happened at the Winchester when they finally got there.
Yeah.
Which they would have been completely safe if David hadn't broken the window. If he would have listened to Shaun about there being a back door they could go into. But he threw the trash can, or he picked up the trash can and broke the window with it. Which then gave the zombies an opening to get in there.
I still want to know, though, after they leave, like, Liz's flat, they get back to the car, they're having that moment, when they realize, like, Philip's about to turn. Philip bears his soul, right? Mm-hmm. And then they realize, like, he's dead, but then not dead. They get out.
Yep.
the
child locks her on. So nobody in the back seat can get out.
Like, what happens to Philip in the end?
Well, they just left him in the car.
Right, he gets left in the car, so like no one's taking him out. Like,
I mean, the
army could shoot him, right?
They could, but they didn't crack a window, so maybe he'll overheat and eventually die.
But later, sadly, as we get later in the movie, Barbara sadly dies.
Yes, because she got bit.
Like, so it's not
by by the old man they were zombie training with when they stabbed him with that tiny little tetherball pole into the tree so that they could learn how to act like a zombie. Yeah, that guy bit Barbara.
And she gets eventually like offed as a zombie too. It's not like she and Philip could be zombie partners together in someone else's shed where they're not harming anybody. You know, that's the thing, is like Shaun can visit. Here's a spoiler, Ed.
Yeah, in the shed in the end.
Where he's still playing video games.
Mm-hmm. After Ed gets bit. But
he can't visit Mom.
No, he can't visit Mom.
I'm using Mom intentionally.
Yep.
But yeah.
Which, like that's a really sad scene.
It is.
When they find out that Barbara got bit.
Well,
it is so well done. So well acted. I mean, Shaun really delivers, or Simon Pegg really delivers that, oh no, my mom got bit by a zombie, she's dying. Like,
you know, just when, like, Liz finds out and, like, she doesn't know, like, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so weird, it's like, there's this whole thing about it, too, like, you know, we haven't mentioned it yet.
Shaun's got to put his own mother down.
Yeah. And it's weird, like, you know, this entire idea is about, like, not forgetting his mom's birthday. And then also remembering the anniversary.
Yeah. He got her flowers and then ended up throwing them in the trash. And then she found them in the trash can outside of the Winchester.
And, like, she's been waiting to meet his girlfriend.
Yeah, she's been waiting to meet Liz.
Like, you know, they don't say how long. It seems like it's probably been a while. And they live in, London's a huge city, but still.
Yeah, but still. I mean, it's established that, you know, Shaun and Liz had been dating for a while before the movie started, you know, and if Barbara and Liz had never met in that time, then she'd been waiting to meet her for a long time.
Like, you know, you see that look, like, and again, it goes into the acting. Like, you see that in, like, Walton's eyes and even her voice about being so happy to meet this girl. It's really important to her son. And then just treating her like kindly. But Kate Ashfield, who plays Liz, responding to that and seeing how much she really means to Shaun and just the situation of it and just like knowing this what that means. I'm like, yeah, here she is, like knowing that I'm trapped with her. Something that has to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Shaun's the one that has to put her down.
Yeah. It's just
but
done.
Also he hesitates, but then as soon as zombie Barbara attacks, that's when he pulls the trigger.
Yeah, I mean, you see that it's not his mom.
Yeah.
You know, it's, yeah.
Now, was she lunging at Liz?
It's a good question.
Or was she lunging at Shaun?
Yeah. You see it from his point of view, but you don't know which way she's going.
Because it would make sense if she was lunging at Liz, he was protecting Liz. Because she was right next to him.
He says later, he doesn't know if he could kill his mom, his girlfriend, and himself on the same day. Thomas Jane in the Mist. But
yeah, that's another movie. Yeah.
Sorry if we spoiled that for people. It's been 16 years.
It's been a while. Another good movie, but yeah, really messed up ending. But yeah, so I do love how they lighten it up a little bit though. And once the zombies all come in and the jukebox is playing,
Queen, Freddie Mercury, man.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're running around surrounding the bartender, beating on him with pool cues to the beat of the music. Every time I hear that song, I always think of that scene.
Yeah.
Don't stop me now.
With it. They mix in Queen. Well, kind of like that drama, kind of like the thrills of it. This, the kind of more your tense scenes and then the absurd comedy. Like it balances all of that really, really, really well. And I think, again, like everything in the Winchester there at the climax is a perfect example of it, right? Again, like you got Queen playing, Can't Stop Me Now. They're flipping the light switches. Yeah, this top.
The zombies dancing outside.
Going,
Looking like they're dancing. Oh.
And it switches to that desperation again, where they're like, the zombies break in. And now, like, we're kind of back into, like,
now
girl
back
mode.
into, it becomes a serious movie again.
They're down in the cellar.
But before the zombies all break in, they rip David apart. They grab David and start dragging him out of the window. Everybody else grabs his legs. They pull his legs off.
What I love about it is because they pull his legs off.
They use them as weapons.
They rip open his belly.
Yep.
And it's such cheap effects.
Yep.
But it's purposeful cheap effects.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. And then they start using his legs as bats to fight off the zombies. Oh.
You like wonder about that. Like Diane, he goes into like the throng of zombies with his leg.
Yep.
You never really find out her fate.
No, you don't. She kind of just runs out in there, and you hope she survives it. But
the army comes not long after this.
Yep. Yeah, they never do.
They
never do mention Diane after that. They never show if she survived or not.
But then Liz and Shaun and Ed, they get to the basement, and then you realize Ed's been bit by that. But Ed stays Ed. He farts.
I'm sorry, Shaun. No, it's okay. Don't be sorry. No, I'm sorry, Shaun.
That's his last words to his best friend. He farts and says, "I'm sorry, Shaun." No, I'm sorry.
No, those weren't his last words. Last words were after Shaun said, "Ed, stop doing that."
Oh, that's right.
I'll stop doing it when you stop laughing.
Which makes you wonder if his zombie farts.
Probably.
Which makes you wonder, like, what do they feed those zombies?
That's a good question.
The remaining zombies. I guess they can feed them animals. Just feed them animals.
They could.
Eat animals. That's squirrels.
Although,
that's the perfect
then
part
I mean, are the zombies? I mean, they're not eating for sustenance.
No.
So, do they really need to feed?
That's the idea. Is like, do zombies really need to continue to eat flesh to actually survive?
Because I mean, no matter how much they eat, they're still decaying at the same rate.
The whole I know what the Zombie Survivor Guide book.
Max Brooks.
I haven't read that in a while. Yeah.
I haven't read it in a while either.
He also wrote World War Z.
Yes.
Which turned into a Brad Pitt movie.
Who is also Mel Brooks' son.
Yes. Mel Brooks is like 90-something.
Yes, he is.
I think if hadn't been Shaun of the Dead, he probably could have done a good zombie movie. But yeah, like, I mean,
we got to do some Mel Brooks movies on this podcast too. But
yeah, I mean, Spaceballs, History of the World.
Yes, History of the World Part 1.
Saddle, Young Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Men in Tights.
High Anxiety.
I was even thinking about that because someone was talking about there somewhere they saw someone legitimately speaking on a shoe.
Really?
And then made me think of, like, first the sneaker phone from Sports Illustrated, but then the sneaker phone or the shoe phone from Get Smart, which was produced by Mel Brooks.
Yes.
It was like kind of before he really started making movies, which is funny. I didn't realize that until later. That was a TV show I would watch with my parents.
Yeah, I grew up watching Get Smart.
And then
my sister loved it, and I'd watch it with her all the time. And
then I ended up watching some of the Mel Brooks movies. Then I learned after watching some of them that I was the same person. Anyway. Back to that scene in the basement in the Winchester, and they're going up on the lift onto the street level. Again, like you had that whole combination of like kind of the fear and then the drama and then the humor.
And they're going up there to face their fate.
They're going up like they're face like you have no idea what's going to happen. You're like, that's the whole thing about zombie movies. Like, what are you facing at the end?
Yeah,
like you could survive, but then what are you surviving for? Right?
Yeah.
And then a bunch of military trucks come in.
Yep. Military trucks come in, then Yvonne comes by again.
Yeah. And even within that, it's kind of funny because like they run over a bunch of zombies and they start shooting them up and blowing them apart. And then but then within that absurdity of it, like it kind of showed that over like, oh yeah, like, not everyone survived. Like there's this real drama happening.
Yeah.
It's they shift between those tones so well in it, and it's not easy to do. And they do it again right after that because then they start showing all the funny clips.
Yeah. And the end of the movie, Shaun and Liz are living together at Shaun's flat, and it's as happy of an ending as a zombie movie can get. All the zombies have been given jobs.
Free labor.
Menial jobs like collecting carts at the store. And Shaun goes out to the shed to visit Ed and play video games with him. Yep.
Ed tries to bite him, and that's it. And then Queen plays over the credits.
Yes, Queen plays over the credits again.
But it's funny, you can, because of the nature of things, is again, it's never this closed ending with the zombies. Edgar Wright has said everything that he wanted to say and do with Shaun of the Dead, he's done. And he's not interested in any sequels.
Yeah, it doesn't need a sequel.
It's something that's come up over time. You're like, oh, will there be a sequel to Shaun of the Dead?
Not every movie needs a sequel.
And he's really shut it down. And Shaun of the Dead doesn't need it.
It doesn't. Shaun of the Dead does not need a sequel. It's perfect how it is. It doesn't need another movie to be tacked onto it.
No. It does what it needs to do, and it exists as it is. And we've seen enough movies that and they try to do the sequel, and the sequel why did they do that? It wasn't
Yeah.
But
I mean, speaking
does have a spiritual sequel.
Yes, speaking of sequels to Shaun of the Dead, it does have a spiritual sequel, which is going to be the next movie we're going to be doing. The next episode is going to be Hot Fuzz, the next Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost movie.
Edgar Wright collaboration, along with a lot of other people we mentioned.
Yes, and it is a spiritual sequel in the sense that it is the second movie of the Cornetto trilogy. The 3 movies directed by Edgar Wright and starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost that all feature a Cornetto ice cream cone in them. It's been dubbed the Cornetto trilogy. So we're going to do movie number 2 in the Cornetto trilogy next, Hot Fuzz, which is a fantastic movie.
Fantastic.
So funny. It just like Shaun of the Dead, took all of the zombie movie tropes and threw them all together into a brilliant homage to zombie movies. Hot Fuzz does the same thing with buddy cop movies.
And oh my.
It's just blended so well together into a perfect homage to
the mismatched partners.
But yeah, that's going to be a fun episode.
And I'm sure people that live in this, I think that one even more so. We'll get into it then. I'm sure there's aspects if you live in small town England.
Yeah.
That
Now, I have never been to England. I would love to go to England someday.
Yeah, me too.
But
England, between England and Scotland, just travel the whole island and drink some scotch.
Yep, go tour some distilleries,
drink some English ale. Plenty of deal. I'm looking forward to doing that one because that's another movie that I remember the first time we watched it together.
Yeah, same here.
We'll get into that when we actually do.
Yeah, that's when the first time we watched together was the first time each of us ever actually watched it. We were watching it together.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was because of Shaun of the Dead.
Yep. But yeah, we'll get into all that in the next episode.
We have stuff to talk about that first time.
Yep. Yeah, so join us next time for Hot Fuzz.
Yes. Until then, have a good week. Happy viewing. If you haven't seen Shaun of the Dead yet, find it.
Yes, it is definitely worth watching. It's a fantastic movie.
Laugh your ass off.
And if you haven't watched Hot Fuzz yet, and you don't want to be, you don't want us to spoil anything on the next episode, then you got a little bit of time to watch it. You got a few days.
If we spoiled Shaun, I'm sorry. It's still going to be hilarious.
Yeah, it's still going to be hilarious. But yeah, you still have a week or so to watch Hot Fuzz before the next episode comes out. So enjoy.